right. Good morning, everybody. It is so great to see you and be in this space with you all. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Arts and Climate Action, using our platforms to create change as part of FaceToFace 2022. FaceToFace is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts, with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature, and by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. I am so happy to be here with you all. My name is Kinsey Keck. I am the Programming and Membership Manager for the New York City Arts and Education Roundtable. I am a white woman with brown hair that goes down to my chin and long bangs that just touch the top of my round framed wire glasses. I am wearing a white linen shirt with green polka dots, and I'm sitting in my kitchen with a few art prints behind me and a few plants you might be able to see as well, just in the bottom corner there. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that although we are currently meeting via an online platform, we do work and live on unceded lands. Mannahatta, or the place that is widely known as New York City, exists on the contemporary and ancestral homelands of the Canarsie, Lenape, Munsee, and Wappinger people. These sovereign nations and communities are still thriving here, and we continue to occupy their lands. So we would like to give a moment of respect to them, as well as to the Black and immigrant communities, which have helped build the city that we know today. As we recognize that all of our pasts, presents, and futures are intertwined, we would like to take a moment to just uplift a few contemporary Indigenous arts organizations that the Roundtable has had a relationship with that we can all support and learn from. I'm going to share those in the chat right now. We have the Lenape Center, Red Hawk, Native American Arts Council, and the American Indian Community House, a representative of which will be participating in FaceToFace this year. So I encourage you to learn more about these organizations, support them with donations if possible, and also I invite you to share any resources or organizations that you might like to highlight in the chat to share with us all. Thank you. Just a few reminders before we get going. If you're having any trouble with Zoom at all, please feel free to send me a message. My colleague Monisha Bayana is also on the call and is here to help. Please keep your mic setting on mute unless you are the person speaking so we can hear everybody clearly. We encourage you to use the chat to ask questions and connect with other people on the call. The chat transcript will be saved and shared with you after this. I also want to note that this call does include closed captioning and live ASL interpretation. To activate captions, you can click the live transcript button on your toolbar and select show subtitles. We will be spotlighting interpreters, but I invite you, if you don't need access to that and you would like to see the full group, you're welcome to navigate to the top right of your screen and click view. It might be on the bottom as well. For me, it's on the top right. And you can move to gallery view there where you'll be able to see everyone in the call. I also want to note that we will be using breakout rooms during this session. If you would like access to ASL interpretation and or closed captioning during your breakouts, please send me a private message. I will take note and we'll host a breakout space right here in the main room so that folks can have access to that. Lastly, I want to acknowledge that this event is being recorded and will be made available on the Roundtable's website and YouTube channel. You'll receive a notification when that video is ready for your viewing. And that is it from me. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our presenters for today's session. I'm going to now turn it over to Beata Moon, who is a teaching artist, Jean Taylor, the Director of Education at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, and Lynn Newman, Director of Artichoke Dance Company. Thank you all so much for being here. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you, Kinsey, and thank you to FaceToFace. It's a great pleasure to be here. My name is Jean Taylor. I am a white woman with short blonde hair, and I'm wearing a gray and white top, and behind me is a green wall with a single plant. I want to offer a short framing before handing things over to my wonderful colleagues, Beata and Lynn Newman. We are excited to share with you today an experience, an investigation, focused on the intersection of art and climate action. As we all know, there are many challenging issues facing us at this time, and artists and teaching artists are responding in creative and compassionate ways. I had the great good fortune to begin my teaching artist career when Lincoln Center Institute had a philosopher in residence. Just the notion of an arts education organization having a philosopher is pretty astounding. But over the years, what I think we do as teaching artists is we engage in philosophy in action. Our why is embedded in our art making, in our questions, and in our reflections. What I have learned most pointedly in the past 2 years is engaging in a creative process helps us stay connected to our innate resources, our ability to imagine, to create, to respond. The issues don't disappear, but when in connection with our resources, we can view the challenges with a different eye, a new perspective, and we often can uncover additional possibilities, solutions, and actions. I'd like to share a short quotation from my mentor, Dr. Maxine Greene. Social imagination is the capacity to invent visions of what should be and what might be in our deficient society. Social imagination not only suggests, but requires that one take action to repair and renew. That is what artists and teaching artists are doing. And I'm so looking forward to our co-investigation today into art and climate action. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Beata.
Thank you, Jean. And I'm going to hand it over to Lynn.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Lynn Newman. I'm a white woman with long dark hair. I'm wearing glasses, much despite my chagrin. I have a purple shirt on with a green cardigan, and I'm sitting in front of some windows that there's lights kind of streaming through the shades or the blinds. So I'm going to start us off today with a short reflection. If we could share the Menti, we're going to do a little activity that gets us thinking about this time in relation to the climate crisis that we find ourselves in. So we first want to just know kind of where you are, what's on the top of your mind in relation to the climate crisis. So you can follow the link that's in the chat, and it will take you to a form. And as you populate the form, our answers will just pop up and we can see them materialize. And I'll give you a moment to do that. I'm going to do it too. Crisis and fear seem to be centering things, but also action. A lot of related things to climate change. I'm seeing food, weather, asthma, concern about future generations, children, plastics, displacement, storms, melting ice caps, youth, rebuilding, suffering, ignorance, We'll share this with you along with resources towards the end so that you can come back and look at this and then also continue to populate it along the way as you wish. I'm going to ask that we share the screen for the next slides. I'm going to take us on a little short journey about the development of environmental justice in terms of our relation in politics here in the United States. So what are we even talking about? So the principles of environmental justice were articulated at the first National People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit in 1991, out of which came 17 principles. And on the screen, I've included a few. I want to point out a couple of relevant ones for various reasons. One, the right to participation, relevant from an Indigenous perspective where folks had been relegated to reservations. Ceasing radioactive production, relevant given energy possibilities and nuclear warheads. And military occupation for obvious reasons with the current war in the Ukraine, but also the use of military might for the co-option of land for use in things like nuclear testing, or today, planting tree farms for carbon capture. In 1994, President Clinton, by executive order, mandated that all federal agencies make environmental justice a part of their missions, and thus these agencies devised their own definitions. And we're going to look at two departmental definitions. Next slide, please. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, I think if you press next again, it'll start to reveal. Who is saying part of the screen? Maybe try, there we go. Environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people. With respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies, how do you ensure involvement of all in the development of a law? Next slide. This goal will be achieved when everyone enjoys the same degree of protection from environmental and health hazards and has equal access to the decision-making process to have a healthy environment in which to live, learn, and work. Next slide. We're going to take a look at another, according to the Department of Energy. This starts off exactly the same as the Environmental Protection Agency, but then the Department of Energy further defines, next slide. Fair treatment means that no population bears a disproportionate share of negative environmental consequences from operations or from the execution of laws, regulations, and policies. Next slide. Meaningful involvement requires effective access to all decision makers. How do you do that? And the ability in all communities to make informed decisions. How do you get people the information? And what information is accurate even? And take positive actions to produce environmental justice for themselves. So we can see this is a pretty tall order. But the important takeaway is equity and access. And we've seen with the coronavirus how inequities were revealed, and a few of those came up in the Menti forum that we just took part in. So environmental justice is intersectional, and this intersectionality can be seen with the coronavirus. Next slide. For income, on the map, on the right is a map of New York City. The lightest areas have the lowest incomes. On the left, the chart shows that as income rises, COVID rates decreased. And these statistics are coming from about the fall of 2020, just when the data was starting to become available. So there are a host of contributors, access to healthcare or even PPE, or having the ability to work from home or not. Density of living, both in terms of neighborhood and within a single dwelling unit. Next slide. For race, the darker areas of the map on the right represent neighborhoods with more people of color. As the percentage of population of color rises in these neighborhoods, the positivity rates also rose. Again, a host of factors mentioned in relation to income, to which we can add pre-existing conditions like asthma, which are correlated to the geography of where you live, for instance, next to the BQE or a trash transfer station, for instance. Next slide. So what's missing? We've mentioned a few things that intersectionally relate to environmental justice in relation to the coronavirus. What haven't we considered? Next slide. Here are some other intersectional factors. Access to food. Food was mentioned in the Menti. Where you live in relation to a grocery store. Extreme heat. Are there trees in your neighborhood or a park that you can gather in safely? So next slide, please. So we're going to go into some breakout rooms to discuss the following, and we'll put this in the chat so you don't have to memorize it or even remember it. But we're going to take a couple of moments to just consider, where do you see environmental justice playing out or not playing out in your neighborhood or in your school or in your life or in your community or in the world in general? And what else is related to environmental justice that we haven't considered yet? So I think Kinsey's going to send us into breakout rooms, and we'll have a couple of minutes to discuss this, and then we'll come back and share.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope that we didn't cut you off mid-sentence, although I know that in breakout rooms that often happens. So apologies if that was you. Kinsey's going to share a whiteboard with us where we can capture some of our thoughts. Beata is then going to use those thoughts for a later activity. So what we left you with, and your conversation could have gone anywhere, but what the questions that we left you with was, where do you see environmental justice playing out or not? And what else is related to environmental justice? So can we share a link to this whiteboard?
So I believe folks should actually have access to edit this just by looking at it. If you look at the top of your screen, there should be something that says like Kinsey is sharing a whiteboard. And if you click the options there should be an option to annotate. At that point, you'll get a little toolbar up and you can do text writing, you can draw, you can stamp, spotlight, all of those fun things.
Perfect. Thank you, Kinsey. I just learned something new about Zoom. Amazing. So feel free to populate this whiteboard. If for some reason what Kinsey shared is not working for you, you can also type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and we'll type it for you. So we'd love to hear what surfaced in your discussions. Great, I'm seeing issues, also seeing some solutions. Lack of trees, green space, leading to urban heat island effect. Particularly, there is correlation to that in those maps that we saw before of New York City. Fires related to asthma. Industrial practices of food. Oh, and we have some here in the chat that I can grab. The Brooklyn pipeline. City parks. Solar panels. Yes, there's been a big push in solar panels. and community solar. I think we can continue populating this as we go. Beata, are you getting enough to work with?
Yes, thank you so much. And actually, we can come back to this later. If we can go back to the slide, Manisha, please. And while we're transitioning to that, hello everyone. I am an East Asian woman with shoulder-length black hair, wearing an orange shirt, sitting next to an upright black piano. And it's wonderful to be here with you all. So for this next activity, my line of inquiries were, how can we incorporate climate justice into our teaching artist activities, and how can we create art using climate justice themes as our inspiration? So if we can stop sharing screen, please, so that I can see everyone. I think I need to go to gallery view. And for those of you who are off camera, it's so wonderful to see familiar faces. We're going to go to the music activity portion. And I thought, can we just all take a deep breath together? I find that always helpful. So I like to do the box breathing where you inhale 4 counts, and then you hold it for 4 counts, and then exhale for 4, and hold for 4. And just shows of your thumbs up. You can use your emojis, just a check-in on how everyone is doing up wherever you are right now, and just hold it for a moment so I can just scan through the. Thank you for sharing, for those who are sharing. Wonderful. So I am going to start off, we are going to start off with a warm-up activity, and you can still stay muted, but we're going to have a copy game. Okay, so I'm going to clap something, and if for those of you, you can just put your hands in view because you're not going to unmute, but so that I could just see, we can all see each other if you can. So I'm going to clap, and then when I point to you, you're going to copy what I just did. Is that clear? Okay, so if I went, your turn. Excellent. I know you're all doing a great job, even though I can't hear you. If I go, your turn. Excellent. How about one more? Wonderful. Now, do I have maybe one brave volunteer who would like to make up your own clapping pattern and unmute, turn original sound on, and share with us so that we can copy you? There's no right or wrong answer here, just whatever you would like to come up with. And I will give a pause to see if there's any brave person.
Amy Harris.
Yay, thank you, Amy. So whenever you're ready.
I remember my music teacher in elementary school always used to do this one for us.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. So if we had more time, I would love to welcome more volunteers, but we don't have a lot of time. This next portion is, I want you to imagine, let's just take that same rhythm that Amy shared with us. But let's say, it seemed like everyone, I saw a lot of thumbs up. Can we even apply that mood to it? So how might it sound to you with a really thumbs up kind of mood? So try that pattern for yourself, but in a very thumbs up way. And then I'll share with you. There's no one way to do it, but just whatever works for you. I'm seeing already, I can tell, it seems like people have gone faster a little bit. They've added bigger gestures, so maybe bigger sound, faster. Excellent. So I can just see that already from the screen. Now, let's say for those of you who are either middle or down, let's take that same pattern, but apply that mood where maybe it's more relaxed or, opposite. So how might that look, or how might that sound? Take a moment and try. I could just by looking around, yes, it seems like a lot slower, right? Softer. So depending upon what mood or emotion we have, that certainly can inform how we clap our patterns. And if we had more time, I would ask you to find maybe another sound, maybe to represent, do I want something very loud, or do I want, a paper sound? So we can choose that element as well. So because composing is just really about making choices, creative choices. And for our inspiration for our composing, because we're going to compose together a really short song or a brief song, our inspiration is going to be the climate, environmental justice solutions. And as I was thinking, as I was reading all the responses, I know Lynn pointed out there were lots of the challenges that we have, but there were also solutions. So just for time and I'm going to make an executive decision here and decide that maybe we can focus on the solutions, because I know with the climate crisis, it can be very overwhelming and frankly depressing. And certainly that can be expressed through song, and it could be part of a song. But I'm thinking if we could also include at least a little bit of hope in there, so some sort of solution. So one way of doing this is we're going to just come up with 4 lines. And originally I was thinking of using, words that you came up with, but we can also have sentence starters. Like, so for instance, we need to, and I'm going to just fill in the blank, or you fill in the blank. Let's say this is our climate song. Think about putting in the chat, we need to, like, for how to address some of these things. And if we have someone either to unmute or put in the chat to start us off, and then we could decide whether or not if we want to rhyme or not rhyme, to rhyme or not rhyme. So, oh, great. Okay, thank you. I'm going to take the first one. We need, wonderful. We already have half our song. We need to plant trees. We need to take a stand. We have 2 lines already. So
Alberto.
I'm sorry?
Alberto has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please unmute and share. Who had the hand up?
It was Alberto, but he put it down. There he is.
Okay.
Sorry, I was wondering if we could rhyme the word compost.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a challenge for you. I welcome that. So we need to plant trees. We need to take a stand. Maybe something with and so you all have creative minds here. How can we rhyme with compost, and how can we put it for these last 2 lines? Oh, excellent. See? So let's see. Yes, host. We have, we can compost with ease or make the most. Right. So all you wordsmith creative people, does someone want to attempt to put 4 of these lines that we have together? Have a toast? Yes? These are all excellent. I love all of this. So make the most with compost. Before we roast. There's now, the thing is, that's good. That is true. So who, can someone, okay, thank you, Sandra. I'm gonna let you, we need to plant trees, we need to take a stand, make the most, then so whatever our last, avoid the roast and start to compost. How's that? For our, great. So does someone mind putting those 4 lines just in a row and maybe one blurb? So we need to plant trees, we need to take a stand, avoid the great roast, and start to compost. So, excellent. So another one of our decisions is what kind of mood do you want this song to be? And we could decide if we're going to speak it or sing it. But like, do we want it upbeat? Do we want it kind of medium? Do you want it slower? And that's for those, that's when we deal with tempo for you music or non-music people. It's how fast or slow. Upbeat. I see votes for upbeat. Fast. Okay, great. It's going to be fast and upbeat. Excellent. Now, we need to decide, let's say, do you want to have an intro, like kind of an instrumental or sound intro before and after, or after? Because soon you're going to go back into the great breakout rooms and come up with your own version. And Zoom doesn't work so well with layering a sound, so it could be just mean for this we just take turns. But thank you, Lynn, for putting that in. So someone give me an idea. Like, I do have a piano here, we can add that or it could just be like percussion sounds, or if someone wants to clap a beat, like what beat do you think could go with this song here? And I'm welcome to take your suggestion for any brave person out there who would like to. So we're doing upbeat fast beatbox. I wish I could. I can't. You don't want me to try. If anyone else knows how to beatbox, and we can keep it non-pitched. We can keep it, or unless we have like a drone, or something. So I just need someone to decide. Oh, the original rhythm. If you want to use a rhythm, we can have that going, or kind of that's Sherry, that's up to you. You can use the original or change it. So I just need a decision maker to just tell me in the chat or unmute. What are we going to do? Is that out? Oh, did someone unmute? Okay, so I'm going to be the decision maker then. How about since I have the piano. Oh yes, Alberto, go ahead. Or no, I'm sorry. Your green light is someone is unmuting. Oh, thank you. Who's doing that? Excellent. So wonderful. Who's ever doing that? Can you keep that and just pause for one moment while we make a couple of other decisions? Love it. Thank you so much, whoever is doing that. Now, do we want to speak it or try to sing it? Or is someone using rapid? Oh, Alberto, thank you. As a choice. Anyone? Speak. Okay, so we can have, let me go back to the lyrics. Where did they go? Yes, so we need to plant trees, we need to take a stand, avoid the great roast, and start to compost. So maybe we'll try it with the beat, but how long do you want the beat to go before we say the words? And how many times do you want to repeat the words? Oh, thanks, Lynn. So someone tell me how many times you want to repeat those 4 lines, and how much of 3 times, okay. And how much of the intro should we have, like before we come in? Should we say 4, 3, 2, 1 or something like that? And then just try that together. And then maybe, does anyone have ideas for 4 counts? Excellent. For an ending, do we want to say, we can either come up with words, we can clap, we can have tremolo, how do you want to end this? Dance party, I love it. Okay, yes, we can put in different modalities, totally. Okay, so can we rehearse that and try that together? And feel free to do it as you're on mute. So Alberto, whenever you're ready, I'll give the symbol for the 4 counts, 3, 2, 1, and then we'll just say it together and then have the dance party, and then maybe this will be the end. Ready? Everyone ready? Okay, so Alberto, whenever you're ready. To share the beat. We need to plant trees. We need to take a stand. Avoid the great roast. And start to compost. We need to plant trees. We need to take a stand. Avoid the great roast. And start to compost. One more time. We need to plant trees. We need to take a stand. Avoid the great roast. And start to compost. Dance party now. Oh, keep the beat going if you want. Oh, yes, the echo worked well. So we had call and response too. So wonderful. Excellent job. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alberta. So what we are going to do now is, for those of you in the breakout rooms, and don't feel like you have to perform. You don't have to. We may not have time to get to everyone, but we're going to give you a chance to go into your breakout rooms to adapt So like, even if you want to adapt it for your art form, how can we take the inspiration of, environmental justice, climate action, however, the words that you want as the inspiration, you can use what we did, come up with another 4-line piece, song, or you can even take those 4 lines, but say them differently, do them differently. But you're going to just have a chance in your breakout rooms to brainstorm and create together. And no worries, not everyone will get a chance to share, but we would love to hear at least what you came up with as far as adapting this activity to something you might do in your own practice. So are there any questions? And actually, we can show that second slide, Monisha, just as a recap of kind of what we did. So your inspiration, whatever your inspiration, whether you want to work on the challenges, maybe it's going to be a sad song about climate or uplifting, however way you want to, whatever your group decides. You can have sentence starters if you want the words to rhyme or not, the mood, and then that affects the tempo, the dynamics, how loud or soft, the sounds that you want to use. Do you want to have intro, all those decision makings. So are there any questions before we put you into breakout rooms? And hopefully you'll have a little bit longer, but as you know, it's never going to be long enough. No worries, it's work in progress. We're not expecting masterpieces. Okay.
Can I just say that Al has great technical skills, but you can use
Yes.
anything you got.
Anything. And if you wanted to do a dance instead of, or a theater, however way, or written poem, whatever you like. So we'll give you is 7 minutes? I know it's too short, but welcome back, everyone. I know it's too short.
I love the unceremonious cutoff. Even though we can all see the counters, it's wonderful.
No way that was 7 minutes.
It might have been a little bit, my math might have been wrong, so I apologize. But thank you for trying, and thank you for being back. And we won't have time for everyone to share, but are there any brave volunteers
Room 6.
Okay.
Room 6. I'm sorry, room 6. I just volunteered us. Is that all right? We're ready. We can do this. It's super fast.
Fine.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Now, do you want to just do it and then maybe explain afterwards, and we'll just listen to the choices that this group made?
Yes, the only thing we ask is for people to have their cameras off. We're going to ask Lisa to just keep hers on.
Got it.
Okay. I'm just going to start. Ready?
We need to plant trees.
We need to take a stand.
Avoid the great roast.
And start to compost.
Woo! Thank you. I love that. A different interpretation. Wonderful. And just the different choices made, right? Excellent. Just and excellent use of Zoom capabilities since we can't really layer the sounds. Thank you so much. Is there another group, brave group? And these could be, or if you want to just talk about what you were thinking of, if you didn't have enough time, or if this brought up any ideas of how you might adapt for your art form or your particular situation. And I will pause and let there be awkward silence as people think about volunteering.
I have one colleague who's like, yes, let's share. So I don't remember what group we were in, but Madeline has to go. She was in our group. I don't remember our number, but Louise
5
and Christy. Okay, cool. Thank you, Madeline. We have a new verse. Louise, can you do the beat?
Oh, you just have to turn on original sound. I forgot to mention that. You are going to change.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry.
She's doing
It
it.
should be on the top left corner or somewhere for this turn original sound. That will just make your sound come in more continuously. And if not, that's okay.
Can I clap it? Can you?
Yeah. Do it.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Christy, should we just do this? Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Oh, where'd it go?
Dun, 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 dun. I'm having trouble hearing you. Stop chopping down trees. We need to take a stand.
Take care of the bees. Preserve
our land.
Ooh, thank you. Excellent. I love that. Adding another verse and changing the beat up. And they decided to use rhyming, which is great. Thank you so much. And I see that, Krista, thank you for putting in the chat. You came up with summer is coming. The beaches are full of trash. Let's be fast and pick up the trash. But now that I've had a minute to consider, not for, sorry. I thought that was part of the, sorry. Summer is coming. Our beaches are trashy. Let's clean up the mess and make it more classy. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Alexandra, and the whole group for putting down the verse in the chat. So everybody, please give yourself a pat on the back and congratulations. I know it's not easy to come up with something so quickly, but hopefully that activity was made to inspire how we can take whatever topic and use the arts, since, as you all know, the arts is a wonderful way to tell stories and to change hearts and minds, and especially with the climate crisis, it can be a way to invite more people in who otherwise may not, have their own thinking about it. So thank you. And I am going to pass it to Lynn.
Great. It's so great. It gives me so many ideas of what we just did. Like different groups could have different verses, and then the whole community or classroom or whatever, you put them together and you have like a song, amazing, right? Or the chant, the school chant, or whatever it is that values can surface and the things that people are concerned about. So thanks everybody for sharing that. You're giving me ideas. I'd like to, I'm going to share some resources.
Sorry, excuse me one moment. I just saw one more. Heidi put in the chat. Our group took a cue from the civil rights movement in making a song of change and action. We want to see this land engulfed in green. We want to be heard. We want to be seen. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
I love it. So I'm going to share some resources and tell a couple stories, I guess. So if we could share the screen, I wanted to first introduce you to the International Teaching Artists Collaborative Climate Collective. It's a place where you can share ideas and gain strategies. And they even have sources of support to which you can apply for a teaching artist project or idea. We have a resource list that we'll be sharing with you. I think Beata will put it into the chat, and then the conference will also share all the resources in an email, a follow-up email with you. So if you don't save the link, don't worry about it. We'll share more with you there. Everything that I'm going to talk about here will be on that, so you don't have to take a lot of notes, because the ITAC Climate Collective, along with the URL of how to find them, is there. So I'm going to share above and beyond this. I'm going to share some other resources, but I'm mostly going to talk about my work because it's what I know best. So for the last several years, I've been working on ways to incorporate and perhaps introduce people to our activist practice within the context of my own work through Artichoke Dance Company. During performances and workshops, I have had this notion that Well, I do feel the arts are very good at raising awareness. I guess I feel like raising awareness isn't enough. And there may be people that don't believe in climate change, but it's not like they're not aware that it's being talked about. So ways that I've tried to do this is like tweet bombs during a performance where we all get out, or people get out their phones, or developing call scripts where we're like, all call an assemblyman or senator's office. And usually things happen, you know, on the weekend or after hours. So I love to imagine that the staff comes in on Monday and is like, there's 100 phone calls about this issue, and then they have to catalog them all. So I'm going to tell a quick story about the that's going to actually counter what I just said about awareness raising. And it's about the town that I grew up in, Benton Harbor, Michigan. And Benton Harbor, Michigan is the next Flint, Michigan, because it's currently going through a lead crisis in the water. There's been disinvestment for many, many years. And when I was growing up as a teenager, the city was the worst small city in America for 5 consecutive years. So this is nothing new in the area, but it surfaced through a water crisis, of which when it first surfaced, due to some national news coverage that picked it up following a petition that was written by a conglomeration of people in the community, it made the national news. At the time, the state was saying it was going to take 18 years to remediate the lead in the water. And because of the uproar that kind of came after it, within about 6 weeks, they had changed that to 18 months. So for this, what it tells me is that actually awareness raising is very critical, right? If it hadn't been elevated to a national story, we might still be on the 18-year timeline. So I'm kind of retracting that thought right now. Like, we do need to raise awareness, right? And we need to raise awareness and concurrently take action. So can we go to the next slide? So I direct Artichoke Dance Company, and we work at the intersection of performance innovation, environmental action, and community power building. So one of our platforms is single-use plastics. We've been working on that for many, many years. It's kind of how I got into environmental activist work. I adopted an older dog, Labrador Retriever. Labs are notorious for trying to eat everything, and I kept pulling stuff out of her mouth and realizing a ton of it was plastic. So I did this deep dive about what happens to plastic pollution, and started to do some advocacy things and incorporate it into my artistic work. So maybe this will just give you some ideas of how you can incorporate some things into your own teaching artist work or projects. Please steal these, use them, replicate them. That's why I'm sharing them. So this particular project was with an elementary school in Gowanus, Brooklyn, where the students modeled our process of collecting used bags from their community, and then they made costumes out of them. This is if you remember in the opening video, it said trash in. So we do this, we create trash and fashion out of trash with communities as a hands-on way of showing direct repurposing. They also created dances about issue pertinent to Gowanus. So Gowanus, the Gowanus Canal was New York City's first named Superfund site because of decades and decades of pollution. Flooding, it's a flood zone A area, so there's a lot of flooding in the area. Combined sewage overflow is an issue with this flooding. So they created dances kind of around these issues. And then there was a performance in the schoolyard, which is here you see us pictured with some kids, of all the works created both by us and by the students. And then concurrently, the students in their visual art classes created messaging campaigns about the issues that they were concerned about in the area. And these materials were distributed in the community and also to elected officials. So let's go to the next slide. So that was a curriculum that was kind of built out over several areas and then implemented throughout a semester. So this is an upcoming project that combines a walking tour of Gowanus, the canal that I talked about. It's currently being remediated. And the area of Gowanus is also undergoing the largest scale rezoning in 20 years. For those artists of us who have been around in New York for some time, we all know what happens during a rezoning to the artists that built up the neighborhood, right? We get priced out. So Gowanus is a rapidly changing area. And with the performances and interactive activities, we're bringing people to various locations in and around the Gowanus Canal. So the tour is being constructed with public housing residents in Gowanus. Their housing is still waiting for mold remediation from Hurricane Sandy. And so they're creating the tour narrative, elevating the issues that they're dealing with and other folks in the community are dealing with. You're welcome to come. I bring this forward because teaching artists work in climate change and environmental justice can happen anywhere and with any population. It's not relegated to the traditional classroom. And in this case, for us, we're working with various partnerships and public housing residents as kind of our classroom. Next slide, please. I'm often asked about, particularly with young arts makers, how to merge artistic practices with environmental action. I certainly don't have all the answers, but I've developed some strategies. So we decided this year to start Artichoke Ambassadors program, which provides some tools, training, and mentorship to help people on their journeys. So there's a week-long intensive module this summer during which people will build a project to be implemented on their own. And then in the fall, we'll start a year-long program during which people will conceive and implement a project with our support. So please share this or even apply if you want to come and gain some tools and strategies and learn with us. Next slide, please. So this is, I guess, an awareness raising project, really. Wayside Story is a project with a photographer that traces single-use plastics from cradle to grave. So plastics are made from fossil fuels. When we first started working on this project, I wasn't sure if people were aware of this. That may be news to you. I think with plastic pollution gaining traction in the media, it's more well known now. So here I am in my fashion made from trash, in front of a refinery. And on the website, the Wayside Story website, you can find a call script to support a national bill, the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. And this is an example of a script that we use in our performances where we all pick up the phone and leave the call. So that gives you an example of how to structure one. And there are also a ton of organizations out there that have these already. So I often say, don't reinvent the wheel, form some partnerships. Any climate issue or environmental justice issue that you can think of, someone is working on it. So the partnerships, I think, are critical and key for us as arts makers. And I have always found that people are very happy to work with artists. So next slide, please. I guess it's coming in. Maybe it's just my internet. There we go. Advocacy Materials exists out there. People are eager to work with you. And here are a couple of resources. And there's a lot more on the document that we're sharing with you. So on the left are examples of organizations doing this work. Climate Change Theater Action happens every other year globally. Chantal Bilodeau gathers 50 playwrights to write 5-minute plays, and then anybody can produce an evening of the readings of these plays. The Superhero Clubhouse works with middle school students in Bushwick. The students actually write the climate action plays, and then professional actors produce them. National Water Dances and Global Water Dances are two organizations that host a day of performances and actions, and you can get connected with them. I'm a regional organizer for Global Water Dances. On the at the top, you'll see Julie's Bicycle and the Center for Sustainable Practices in the Arts. These have great resources and tools for greening arts practices, with things from curriculum to technical writers, carbon calculators, just story sharing and ideas from artists. On the lower right are some approachable podcasts that I like. They're not too technical, but always very interesting and broad. So again, we're sharing this resource list. You'll get an email of it. And then I'll also put my email in the chat if you want to reach out to me with any questions about any of these resources, or hooking up with community organizations. I'm happy to help do that. So I'm gonna now turn it over to Jean to wrap us up. And I think we actually have a little bit of time for Q&A too, if we want to do that.
That's just what I was thinking. I think it'd be great. We have a couple final little, a reflection of, we want to hear some takeaways from you, but I think in this moment, why don't we see if there's a few questions from people about Lynn's work, about any of the resources, which we did say you will get those resources, but are there questions? Feel free to unmute and let us hear your voice.
Or put it in the chat too.
You're musing. I know. You're thinking about it. As you're perhaps formulating a question, I just wanted to go back to the International Teaching Artists Collaborative slide that was up. There's so much going on around the conference and around the collaborative, a huge climate impact project, but also many other amazing issues. And I'm on the leadership committee for ITAC. And when I found that I had a home in a global community, it changed my awareness and my actions. So it's really wonderful to see what others are doing in many amazing places around the world, and understand, we are a global community, and we share these challenges, and we can share our solutions. One other thing that I will just share with you, something that's happened to me. I don't know if you don't know who the wonderful Denny Palmer Wolf is, but Denny is an amazing researcher and a huge ally of teaching artists. And about a year ago or so, I was in a meeting with her, and I've been a teaching artist a long time, but I never had anyone say, as Denny did, well, and isn't it nice that Jean has been able to become an elder in the community? And I went, I have? I am? But what it led me to understand and start is a intergenerational co-mentoring program. So although we all know we learn from all generations, often a mentoring program has a hierarchy. But my mentor is 21, and we laid out a whole 3 tracks for our work. And what I realize is all of the very big issues that are facing us are going to be solved by intergenerational work. We bring so much, each of us, to it. So I'll add to that. We're going to send something out to you in about a month to see how you're doing and what ideas you might have picked up on and taken somewhere. But I just am saying that from my own experience of recognizing that I have much to learn from the younger generation. I think I have something to offer them as well, but we're coming in as equals. Even though learning always happens when you're working with people, it does. This is intentional. And we're tackling some issues together to see how we each would approach it. So just offering that as another form of partnership.
And there is a question, Jean.
Great.
Do you participate in the New York City Water Day, which this year will be on July 16th? It's organized by the Waterfront Alliance and its partners.
That's great. Lynn, have you been part of that?
Yeah, so we did a City of Water Day event around the Gowanus last summer, and we were actually the featured performance for the Art of the Blue Line Festival. And I'm on the review team for the for the applicants this year. So there's some really exciting things that are going to be coming up for Art of the Blue Line this year. So we've done several projects with the Waterfront Alliance before, one in Red Hook a couple of years ago, and then at the Seaport this year. And we'll be doing our own again around Gowanus for the City of Water Day. Absolutely. So you can find all our events on our website, artichokedance.org. And certainly ways to participate there. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Both a resource, Waterfront Alliance is doing great work, and a chance to get, anybody can do a project, right? And then you can advertise it through them. And there are also small funding pools, so you can apply for funding for your own project as well.
There's also some great things in the chat here. Protectors of the rainforest. In the same line of work, how can we collaborate? I think that's why what we'd like to do is when we share this resource document, you can add to it, and that we can support each other in both this awareness building, but also the action that Lynn is so good at reminding us to think about. These are wonderful. Something else that Beata and I did just recently, I'm kind of really, a co-learner here, really just beginning to get deeply involved, but we did the climate reality leadership training, which is again another international group that's with Al Gore. It's a lot, but it gives you an amazing amount of information, and they are amazing at keeping you active. Every day it seems like, but at least every other day I get an action. I get an email that says you could take this action today. You could write to this person. You could call this person, you could do this. So there's a real momentum to the to keeping it going. Not just kind of a momentary inspiration of it, but a persistence. Well, good. Anything else? I love that the chat has some opportunities for great. Thank you, Kim. I'm just reading all the great projects you already have going. Yes. So in our final little time here before we turn it over to Kinsey, is we just would like to do one more Jamboard and hear from you. What did you experience today, or what did you learn that might be able to, you could, take it, make it your own and move forward with it. How does this experience today inform your own practice, as artist, teaching artist, artist activist? So we just want to get a few reflections from you about building on what you've experienced, building on something you heard, and some of these partnerships are certainly a good example. So I think we're just going to get another Jamboard up. Thank you. Thank you, Kinsey. And as we do this, great. Just let us know some observations, some next steps, some questions as well. Great.
I'd like to add, I just remembered that I think that Jamboard has a cap of the number of folks who can access it at one time. So if you're unable to access the Jamboard, please type your thoughts in the chat and I will copy and paste them for you.
Fantastic. Great. Yes. Agreed. Collaboration. Mm-hmm. Yes, the process, even simple art making, it really does put us in touch with our own resilience and resources. Yeah, great.
Yeah, around process, I can also share. So with our trash and then with other, we've done sets and costumes out of other plastic materials. I find something really interesting happens in the collection process, both from like just asking someone for the materials and then accumulating them, then gathering them, you start to realize, oh, this is way bigger than just the bag of plastic bags that I had. Like suddenly you have like 100 bags of plastic bags. It's like, all right, think of every person you know. And if they have that, what is that volume? It's hard to imagine, right? But as you start to then gather the materials, it's like, oh, wow, this is really, and I see that happen in people all the time. Yeah.
Well, these are great, the Jamboard. Thank you so much. I also think that's right. We reflect on what's already working and we can build on that. That's to keep us knowing it's doable. And there does seem to be more going on about it. Beata and I also attended an amazing presentation by Broadway Green and what all the Broadway houses are doing to try to, step it up. And it's pretty fantastic. Solutions for theater, backstage, green rooms, call boards, water bottles.
Right. They used a shoe rack with, where the material shoe rack where you normally would put shoes, and used that to put people's water bottles. So they were all labeled, just finding other ways to reduce one-use items.
Yeah. I'm just still looking at these. Thank you so much for all this.
Yes, I love, and Krista mentions the found objects even to make music.
I think someone had put in the chat that I had said this, and it was reinforced by Heidi, that arts are good at raising awareness. I think they're also good at activating people. People often ask, like, what can I do? What should I do? And I think that there's a point where it's like, it feels so overwhelming, like you don't know where to start, but you just got to start, right? So the activation of the arts can help people start in a way that's like not threatening or like guilting them into something, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, these are fantastic. Let's just take a little bit more time. I'm going back and forth between the chat and the Jamboard. Yes. So in terms of the intergenerational discussions, I also teach at I'm at Lincoln Center, but I'm also at the New School. And actually New School has quite a strong sustainability project. And I just found that as I taught there, I felt I was learning. You always think I'm learning. I know I'm learning. I'm a co-learner, but it became evident that there were perspectives that my young students had that I felt were going to be so important going forward, and that I wanted to be part of the change that they could envision.
Lisa, you have a direct question. I feel like organizations are approachable. So I can give you two organizations that off the top of my head, or maybe even more. So 350 Brooklyn, which is a chapter of 350.org, a climate change organization, has a plastics group that is working on both on a larger scale and on a personal scale about plastic use and plastic consumption. So you can hook in with that group. There's also the National Plastic Pollution Coalition that I found very responsive, and they have a lot of resources. Story of Stuff also has a big plastics kind of push. And then in the marine environment, the Algalita Marine Research Foundation, and I'll type that in the chat. The person that started this, he has a great book called Plastic Ocean. Charles, he discovered, it's not like it wasn't there, but he every other year, he and his family would sail between California and Hawaii and watch the plastic trash patch actually form over many years. So I'll type that one into the chat for you.
Good. Kinsey, I know you have some final remarks and things, so we can save all of this, and thank you so much. And as I said, I think we, the three of us will put together an email in about a month, and we'll send it to the Roundtable to send it to you all to see if we can continue the conversation and maybe even the collaboration. We're so grateful to have been creating and discussing and envisioning with you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us and for, guiding it forward.
Yes, I just want to say on behalf of everyone here, not to speak for them all, but I just want to express my gratitude and our collective gratitude for having the three of you here, Jean, Beata, and Lynn. Please show them love in the chat to everybody. And I want to make sure everyone knows that, yes, all of the resources that we've discussed during this call, this chat that has just so many things going on in it, will absolutely all be made available to you in a follow-up email within a week. And I just want to say also thank you to you all for being here in this space with us. I can't believe that was only 90 minutes. I feel like we did so much, but it was just wonderful. So thank you so much to our presenters and of course to our conference sponsors who made this possible. I do want to share a couple of announcements, but while I'm doing that, if it's okay with everyone on the call, I'm just going to launch a quick poll. We're going to be doing this after every face-to-face session. It's just 3 quick questions. We just want to get your take on what you experienced today. So please do fill out the poll if you have 2 minutes. While you're doing that, I want to invite you all to join us later today for our next face-to-face virtual session. That is at 4 p.m. The link is already in your inbox. If you don't have it, you can feel free to email me and I will get it to you. That session is called Abolitionist Lesson Planning, Communal Art Making, and New Breaths. So I really hope to see you all again today at 4 o'clock for that session. I also want to share with everyone on the call that we are hosting a 2022 Arts and Education Job Fair. The Roundtable has done this for many years, but unfortunately, the last 2, we haven't been able to host it. So we're so excited to bring this back to our community. That job fair is in partnership with Community Word Project and the Borough of Manhattan Community College. If you would like to learn more and sign up for that job fair, there is a link in the chat there for you. And I'm just going to leave this call open for another 30 seconds or so to let folks answer the feedback survey. And other than that, I just want to again say thank you so much and be well this afternoon. And I hope to see you all soon. And thank you to our incredible ASL interpreter team as well. We are so grateful to you, Lori and Jasmine, for being with us. And everybody have a wonderful day. All right, I have 100%. People have done the poll, so I'm going to end that and I'm going to close this meeting out now. Thank you all very much. See you soon.